Hello there YouTube, and welcome to my channel. I'm Jason, but more people know me as the Common Sense Guy. So today we're going to actually be getting into this video about, well, transgenderism, believe it or not. Unfortunately, it's actually come to my attention via a very, very small report from the BBC that there is a transgender woman, so a man being a woman, that was sent to a female prison. And yeah, that went about as good as what you would have expected it to go. It went that well. He is now being moved, or she is now being moved, due to the fact of sexual touching that has been going on. Probably other bits and pieces that have been going on as well. But you know, you can't really go into that apparently, and nobody wants to report on it. I find it very interesting that we have these type of situations going on. And the fact that the Ministry of Justice is even playing into these ideas that just because you identify as something that you have to experience the way that you would want to experience the justice system. So if you're a woman and you want to experience the justice system as a man, then all you have to do is say, I'm a man. And you can go to a man's prison and you can probably get raped because you're a woman. Yeah. With that being said, and with that happy note, let's get into the video, shall we?
I tear my heart open, I sew myself shut. My weakness is that I can't do much, and my scars remind me that the past is real. I tear my heart open just to fail.
So let's get into this story. As you can see by the title, we have transgender inmate charged with sex offences at Wakefield Jail. So, going a little bit forward, or down rather, you'll be able to see the actual extent that the BBC have written about this. And yes, as you're seeing it, that is the extent that they have chosen to write about this story, shall we say. So, a transgender prisoner has been charged with committing 4 sexual offences against inmates at a women's jail in West Yorkshire. So, remember how they've phrased that? They've been phrasing this as 4 sexual offences against inmates. Now, look at how they change it later on. Karen White, 51, is accused of 4 counts of sexual touching at New Hall Prison, Wakefield. So, first of all, it was sexual offences, and now it's sexual touching. What one is being dumbed down and what one is actually true, I do not know, as I have not been able to find any sort of research out on this at all at this moment in time. But one would presume, and this is an assumption, or a presumption, so yes, I do know that it makes an arse out of you and me, but at the same time, it's one that I feel quite confident in making. I would suggest, or put to the court, if I may, that if you have a person that is biologically a male, that is being a transgender woman, I would say around about 90% of transgender women that see themselves as women actually try to be a lesbian woman, surprisingly. I don't know why that is. I don't know why that they see themselves as lesbian women, but apparently that's the way that it is. So, with that being said, I would say that this transgender person, this transgender woman, was a case of being a male, generally, and was in a prison full of women. For a start, the Ministry of Justice should never have accepted the fact of this transgender person going to this prison, and it should not be accepted for the opposite way round either. It should not be accepted for a woman to go into a man's prison. It will not end well. Simply because the people that you are interacting with them are not the society that is accepting. It's not the society that is actually part of the social contract, so to speak. These are people that have already broken the laws. These are people that are not necessarily going to be the nicest of people to other persons. So one would presume that if there was a woman in a male's prison, for instance, then that woman unfortunately will have sexual abuse taken or given to her, should I say. And nobody wants that. That's not the reasons why people are put into prison. They're put into prison to supposedly be rehabilitated. We can get into an argument on whether it works at another point in date, I would say that it doesn't work, but that's my opinion. So let's actually get back to this Karen White, shall we? And it's a case of, for Karen, she's been into this prison at Wakefield, which is a women's prison. I don't know why everybody keeps on writing jail, because for a start, we're not American. And a jail is a holding cell that is behind or in a police custody suite, so to speak, where a prison is actually a prison that's dedicated to it. But, journalism, apparently they know what they're doing. But yes, these offences allegedly have taken place between September and November of last year. So it's taken a fair old while to get to this point as well, if it's almost taken a year to get to this point. Now remember, we're almost coming up to August, so we're only literally about a month away from September, meaning that would have been 12 months nigh on. So we're at 13 months, unlucky for some, I suppose. But that's the point though, isn't it? The fact that Karen White is accused of sexually abusing or sexually offensive to other inmates, either by touching or by physically doing stuff with them. I would imagine that if I was in a prison with women, that I would probably want to have sex with a couple of them. Not saying that it would be a case of me being overpowering anybody, because I don't think that would work. But at the same time, I'm a man. And these transgender women, 90% of them I would say, are lesbian women or pretend to be lesbian women. That means that they are attracted to those of the same sex, supposedly, if you buy into all of that. But that being said, that means that because the Ministry of Justice wants everybody to experience the system in a way that they see that they should do, then it's a case of these things will happen. These men will end up having sex with these women. Because guess what? They are men. They are women. That is what we are bred for. That is our evolutionary traits. You put a man and a woman together for long enough, they eventually find sexual attraction. Eventually. And no, that doesn't necessarily mean it will be a case of rape, but necessarily one will find one attractive and the other one won't. Or both do. The thing is, it's an evolutionary state. Men fancy women, women fancy men. That's the reason why it's a majority. But she appeared before magistrates earlier this month and is due to appear at Leeds Crown Court in August. So obviously, literally, 11 months after the first initial cases have been brought to court, she is now going back to court to be able to hear her sentences. So it's an interesting time for this Karen White, because I don't know how this transgender woman is going to fare in prison. I really don't know on that side of things. I know some people will go, oh, she shouldn't be going to prison, but she is biologically male, so she is a male. It's a case of, I don't know, people might generally pick on her, I don't know. But at that point in time, it's a case of she's a prisoner. You have to trust in the prison guards and the prison officers to look after her the best that they can. The same as the way that they tried to look after the female prisoners that were around her. Doesn't always work, but at the same time, they're heavily unfunded. It's not a case of they got enough people to walk around or anything. It's the same thing as if, as I said before, that if a woman was to say that she was a man, then would she be able to go to a man's prison and experience the system as a man? So more from Yorkshire. Miss White, Miss Karen White obviously, who was born male but now identifies as a woman, because that obviously matters a hell of a lot when it comes to biology and what prison that you should go into. Obviously, what you identify as. Can you imagine a big burly bloke with big muscles, big tattoos, teeth missing, maybe an eye patch, I don't know, trying to make him look as bad as possible, going to the judge, right, I sentence you to 25 years to life imprisonment. Judge, I just want to let you know, I identify as a female. Can I go to a female prison, please? Because that's basically what these are going on about. It's the fact that, oh, I identify. I feel like I'm a woman. No, I'm sorry. You may feel like a woman, but it doesn't mean that you biologically are. It's just not the way that it is. So, Ministry of Justice, the MOJ, guidance says, in the great majority of cases, transgender prisoners are allowed to experience the system in the gender in which they identify. So again, I allude you to the point of, if there is a woman that identifies as a man, what the hell would go on when she went to a man's prison? And no, I do not actually want to know the answer to that, because I have a theory on that one, and it wouldn't end well for her, unfortunately. It wouldn't end well at all well for her, regardless of what she looked like. It's the same thing as what's going on and what we're talking about now. It's a case of, if you have a man that's in a female's prison, he's going to use what he has to be able to get what he wants. And most people want sexual gratification in some way, shape or form. And unfortunately, it's a case of, that's the reason why we separate male and female, so these things cannot happen. I do not know if people really understand the understandings of biology and the reasons why we keep people away. Because after all, no matter what you identify as, if you have a working penis and the other person has a working vagina, you are going to be able to make either your inmates pregnant or impregnate your inmates if you have men and women together. That means that the system would have to pay for more stuff, obviously. That means that those babies would be either taken away from their adults, their parents, so to speak. That means that they would have to have marriage quarters. That's just absolutely ridiculous for that to even happen. It would just be another form of a council estate rather than it be a rehabilitation centre or supposed rehabilitation centre. But let's get on to the last bit. The department said there were safeguards or strict safeguards to prevent abuse of the way transgender prisoners are managed. What about the way that transgender prisoners manage other prisoners? Or how prisoners manage transgender prisoners? Because I mean it in a nice way, you're not going to be there all the time. You're not there 24/7. Hence why you have people that go on suicide watch when they throw crap, literally crap, at the doors and everything else like that, and smear it everywhere because they're on food or hunger strike because they feel aggrieved or outraged. So what's going to happen with somebody that is a male in a female prison, and what's going to happen to a female into a male prison? I want the left to think about this. It's fine you trying to say that in a civilized society that you should be able to do whatever you want. Yes, you should be able to. But when you go into somewhere like prison, you're not in a civilized society. You're in, if you will, the dregs of society. You're the outcasts of society. And you want those type of people to be accommodating to the same level as what the outside society would be? That's ludicrous. All you're going to do is either let people like Karen White abuse other women in other prisons, or you're going to let women be abused by men when they go to men's prisons. That's all you're setting it up for in the prison service, at least. But with that being said, I've spoken too much on this issue, and it's something that I have a lot to say about and a lot to talk about. But the story is what it is. The fact that a man that thought that she was a woman, or thinks that she's a woman, ended up being accused of sexual touching, or in the actual case, of sexual abuse against other inmates. So with that all being said, I think it's best for me to say au revoir, farewell, adieu, auf Wiedersehen, I'll see you all again. But first of all, don't forget to like this video, don't forget to subscribe to this video, and don't forget to check out my new videos. See you all again real soon. Bye bye for now.